Congratulations. Seriously. Take a long, deep, and deserved bow. You've just won the invisible Oscar for best performance as a normal person. You've spent the last decade, maybe your entire adult life, perfecting the most exhausting, soul-crushing art form known to mankind, the art of blending in. You've mastered the socially acceptable laugh, that short, hollow, perfectly timed burst of air that tells the world, "I'm enjoying this," when in reality, you're just counting the seconds until you can finally be alone in a room where you don't have to perform. You've mastered the empathetic head tilt, the thoughtful hum, and the curated silence. You are a world-class actor in a high-budget movie that literally nobody is actually watching. But here is the dark, jagged irony of your talent. The more polished your performance becomes, the more your actual self, the raw, unfiltered, chaotic architecture of your mind, rots in the dark basement of your consciousness. You've built a spectacular monument to a person that doesn't exist. You walk into a room, a party, a boardroom, a wedding, and your brain immediately initiates a social survival simulation. You aren't there to connect, you're there to avoid detection. You are a ghost haunting your own life, a spy behind enemy lines, except the enemy is just a group of people eating appetizers and talking about the weather. If you've ever felt like a glitch in the Matrix, like a software error in a world of hardware, stay right here, because today we aren't going to give you tips on how to fit in. Fitting in is for the mediocre and the fearful. We are going to perform a cold clinical autopsy on why you feel like an alien, and why your desperate, clawing need for belonging is the very thing keeping you isolated in a cage of your own design. Welcome to the breakdown of your own illusions. This is the moment you stop acting and start breathing. Let's analyze your daily tactical failures with the precision they deserve. Take the simple, mundane act of entering a coffee shop. To a person who actually belongs in their own skin, this is a brainless 2-minute transaction. To you, it's a high-stakes covert operation. You calculate the trajectory of your walk from the door to the counter so you don't accidentally brush against a stranger and trigger an unplanned social event. You rehearse your order 6 times in your head, large latte, oat milk, large latte, oat milk, because God forbid you stutter and reveal that you are a flawed human being with a pulse and a nervous system. You think you're being subtle, but your hypervigilance is broadcasting a signal of error 404, authenticity not found. People don't pull away from you because you're weird. They pull away because they can sense the wall. They can feel the 3-second processing delay between an actual emotion and your curated, safe reaction. You're so busy trying not to be the awkward guy that you've become the invisible guy. And in the social hierarchy, invisibility is just a slow-motion version of death. You are committing social suicide one safe interaction at a time, hoping that if you don't bother anyone, if you remain perfectly neutral and silent, they might eventually love you. Spoiler, they won't. You are trading your soul for a lack of conflict, and that is a bargain that will leave you spiritually bankrupt. The more you try to disappear into the background, the more you stand out as a void where a person should be. You aren't avoiding judgment, you are inviting pity. Time for a cool dose of neurobiological reality that your ego won't like. Meet your mirror neurons. These are the biological snitches of the human brain, hardwired into your skull by millions of years of evolution. They were designed to mirror the internal state of the person in front of us to ensure tribal survival. When you approach someone with the desperate vibrating energy of "please accept me," your body is screaming danger in a frequency only the subconscious can hear. Your micro-expressions, your shallow, panicked breathing, the subtle tension in your jaw, it's all being broadcasted like a flare in the dark. When you try to force a connection, the other person's mirror neurons pick up on your internal stress. They don't think, oh, this person is just shy and sweet. They think, why is my nervous system telling me to run away from this conversation? This is the paradox of effort. Your thirst for connection acts as a literal chemical repellent. You are trying to attract people while projecting the vibration of a car alarm. It's an antithesis that keeps you trapped in a loop. The more you care about being liked, the more repulsive you become to the very people you want to impress. You are chasing a shadow that moves faster the more you run. You aren't being rejected for who you are. You're being rejected for the mask you're wearing so tightly that it's suffocating your vibe. This is the ultimate betrayal of the self. Your own survival mechanism is the very thing ensuring your social extinction. You are overthinking your way into isolation, using a map of fear to try and find a destination called love. You live your life governed by a modern superstition, a ritual of the weak. You've convinced yourself that if you sacrifice enough of your soul to the gods of social approval, they will finally grant you a passport to the group. You think, if I just agree with their politics, if I laugh at their mind-numbing jokes, if I never share my actual obsessions, I'll be safe. It's a scam, a multi-level marketing scheme for the ego. Conformity is not a bridge, it's a cemetery where dreams are buried in unmarked graves. You are an ocean trying to sell yourself as a puddle because you're afraid someone might drown in your depth. But here's the truth. Nobody wants to swim in a puddle. It's stagnant, it's shallow, it's boring. By trying to be everyone's cup of tea, you've turned yourself into lukewarm tap water. You've traded your inner patterns, the beautiful, chaotic, unique architecture of your mind, for a seat at a table where the only thing on the menu is mediocrity and lies. How does it feel to be included for a version of you that doesn't exist? It isn't belonging. It's a hostage situation where you are both the kidnapper and the victim. You are so terrified of being an outsider that you've become an outsider to your own soul. You've become so obsessed with fitting in that you've forgotten to check if the shape you're fitting into is actually a coffin designed to keep you small until you die. You are haunted by the persistent, nagging belief that there is a secret manual for humans that everyone received at birth except for you. You watch your peers navigate small talk like they're breathing while you're manually operating your lungs, thinking about where to put your hands so you look natural or approachable. You feel like a software error in a world of perfect hardware. But here is the extreme confidence you need to swallow. The manual is a myth. It's a lie told by the confident to keep the insecure in their place. Most people aren't better at socializing, they're just too shallow to realize they're lost. They aren't deeply connected, they're just comfortable being NPCs in their own lives, following a script they never questioned. You don't not belong because you're broken. You don't belong because your standards for connection are higher than the cheap synthetic dopamine everyone else is trading. You're searching for a symphony in a world that's perfectly happy listening to white noise on repeat. Stop apologizing for having ears that can hear the discord. You aren't a failed human, you're an unoptimized god waiting for the right frequency. The fact that you feel the gap, the distance between what social life is and what it should be, is proof that you were meant for something more than just fitting in. Your alienation is a symptom of your depth, not a bug in your code. It is the price of admission for a life of actual meaning. Whether you are watching this from a high-rise in Bangalore or a studio apartment in Brooklyn, the prison is identical, only the wallpaper and the guards change. In the East, the pressure of the tribe tells you that your identity is a debt you owe to your ancestors and your future children. If you don't fit the mold of the successful son or the obedient worker, you are a shameful error. In the West, the myth of the hyper-productive individual tells you that if you aren't the loudest, most charismatic protagonist in every room, you're irrelevant and replaceable. You are caught in the crossfire of two dying ideologies that both want the same thing: your total compliance. You've internalized the loner stigma so deeply that you've started to treat your own company like a prison sentence. You think being alone means you're unwanted, a social pariah. But in reality, being alone is the only time you're actually safe from the noise of other people's projections and expectations. You've been taught to fear the only place where your inner pattern can actually breathe and expand. Your culture didn't design you to be happy or fulfilled. It designed you to be useful, predictable, and quiet. And belonging is the shiny bait they use to keep you in the trap. If you don't feel like you belong in your culture, it's because your culture is too small, too rigid, and too terrified of the reality of who you actually are. Here's a truth that will make your fragile ego scream in agony. Nobody connects with your perfection. People don't fall in love with your resume, your clean apartment, your expensive watch, or your curated LinkedIn profile. They connect with your cracks. They connect with the parts of you that are broken, bleeding, and real, because that's where they recognize their own humanity. Vulnerability is not a weakness. It is the only bridge to true belonging. When you hide your flaws, you're hiding the only parts of you that are actually magnetic to other souls. You're guarding an empty vault with your life. You spend all your energy protecting a reputation that provides zero warmth when the world gets cold at night. The moment you have the balls to say, "Yeah, I'm actually terrified right now," the wall vanishes, because everyone else in that room is terrified too, clutching their own masks with white knuckles. They're just waiting for someone brave enough to go first, to be the first casualty of truth. Be that person. You need to develop the divine art of disappointing people. Stop asking, "Do they like me?" and start asking, "Do I even like who I am when I'm standing in this room with these people?" If you have to lobotomize your personality to fit into a social circle, that circle is a grave. Walk out. The moment you become okay with being the wrong person in the wrong room, you finally become the right person for yourself. And that is where true, unshakable power begins. Your not belonging is not a defect. It is your greatest competitive advantage in a world of clones. It is the outsider's edge. Because you aren't blinded by the groupthink, you see patterns they are too distracted to notice. You question rituals they follow like drugged sheep heading to the slaughterhouse. You are the observer, the architect, the analyst who sees the world for what it actually is, a giant, beautiful, broken machine. The greatest minds in human history, the ones who actually moved the needle of civilization, the ones we still talk about centuries later, never belonged. They were too busy building the future to care about being popular in a present that was already dying and rotting. Don't trade your vantage point for a seat at a table where the only thing on the menu is a slow, comfortable decline into obscurity. Your isolation is not a bug, it's a feature of a superior operating system that needs a quieter environment to run its complex calculations. The glass wall between you and the world only exists as long as you believe you need permission to shatter it. You don't need their approval to occupy the space you were born to take. You don't need their validation to be real. Leave a comment below with the phrase, "I broke the glass." I want to see who's finally waking up from the trance of conformity. This is a community for those who don't fit, and in that shared not fitting, we find the only belonging that matters. Subscribe to Inner Patterns if you are ready to stop performing and start mapping. The mask is already gone. It's time to see what's underneath.